I navigate my vehicle into the curved driveway of the house where I grew up. The sound of tires grinding against newly fallen snow fills the air. The 4-hour journey from Seattle has made my spine ache. However, that discomfort isn't what causes my stomach to twist as I emerge into the harsh December cold. Holiday decorations sparkle along the roof's edge, painting rainbow shadows across the pristine white landscape. So perfectly arranged. So misleading. The main entrance remains open, as it always does. I hesitate in the foyer, absorbing the recognizable sounds of cutlery meeting fine china, frozen water hitting glass containers, the quiet chatter of relatives. Momentarily, I'm a child of 10 again, filled with festive excitement. Is anyone here? I announce, removing my winter wrap. The discussion in the adjacent room halts entirely. I move ahead, every step on the wooden flooring reverberating through the abrupt quiet. The dining area's entrance reveals a sight that chills me to the bone despite the house's warmth. 12 table arrangements shine on the dark wood surface. 12 seats await occupants. 12 glass water vessels capture illumination from Mother's treasured lighting fixture, yet none await my arrival. Harlan glances up from his spot beside the table's head, a partial grin forming on his lips. My elder sibling, now 40, yet somehow maintaining the identical look he wore when taking the final treat from the container during our youth. Well, see who chose to honor us with their appearance, he remarks, straightening his shirt. Perhaps your dish is somewhere else. Back with the felines. Mother refuses to raise her gaze. Her hands work systematically through the table's floral arrangement, repositioning evergreen branches and berries as though their exact positioning could dispel the tension permeating the space. Joyce, my father's sister Margaret murmurs. I believed you mentioned not at this time. Mom whispers, attention remaining on the greenery. And there, occupying what was previously my seat, third from the left side, the one with the minor instability that Dad never repaired, sits Tessa. My relative positions herself with the assurance of someone who had claimed it numerous times previously. She presents a shallow smile that fails to reach her gaze.
He's gone, she states.
We didn't anticipate your arrival. The statement strikes like separate blows. We didn't anticipate your arrival. I remain motionless, conscious of 12 sets of eyes following my actions. Some contain sympathy, others intrigue. Several show barely hidden contentment. The holiday tree's illumination mirrors in the glass behind them, forming tiny bursts of color that appear to ridicule the icy emptiness expanding within my chest. I retrieve a small container from my bag, wrapped in metallic paper, no bigger than my hand. The room observes as I approach the table, my footwear creating a consistent beat on the flooring. I position the package beside Harlan's setting, letting my touch rest on it briefly. Look beneath your dish, I state, my tone remarkably calm. Harlan's smugness wavers. What? When you're prepared to confront your actions, I continue, examine under your dish. I pivot without awaiting his reply and head toward the exit, maintaining proper posture and measured pace. Nobody calls out. Nobody pursues. The sole sound is the gentle whisper of my coat as I put it back on. Outside, the snowfall intensifies. Large crystals drift through the porch light's glow. I sit in my vehicle, fingers gripping the wheel tightly, and finally permit myself to experience the complete force of their dismissal. Flashback. I had come early, intending to assist with arrangements, as was my custom. The residents stood silent, everyone still preparing upstairs. I had wandered into the main room, seeking solace in festive customs, and discovered the initial indication above the mantel where 12 stockings hung in perfect alignment. Mine was notably missing. My gaze had shifted to the shelf where family photographs documented past celebrations. The frame that previously contained an image of Dad and me constructing the backyard barrier now showed Tessa and Mom in coordinating holiday garments. When the family appeared, Mom had embraced me briefly, a cursory gesture, unlike the warm, extended one she offered Tessa shortly after. I observed quietly as they navigated around me, like liquid flowing past an obstacle in a stream. 2 months prior, I had driven up unexpectedly, discovering the house vacant. Some invisible force had led me to Dad's office, maintained since his death like a historical display. The secured cabinet in the corner had beckoned, and I recalled the key he had revealed years earlier. Just in case, he had said, concealed behind a loose stone in the hearth. What I discovered within altered everything. Last week, when I contacted Mom regarding Christmas plans, her voice had been remote, distracted. Well, dear, we're handling things differently this year. Restricted seating, you see? Before I could reply, Harlan's voice interrupted on the phone, apparently taken from Mom's grip. Listen, it's simply more convenient this way. Nothing personal. Nothing personal. The same dismissal I had heard throughout my existence whenever something caused too much pain to acknowledge. That's when I realized I would attend. I'll be there, I had declared. Reserve my place. I had spent the following week preparing the small metallic container, the evidence, the truth that would transform everything. Now, as I start the engine, I glance back at the house one final time through the dining room window. I can see them assembled, continuing their meal as though I had never interrupted, as though I had never existed. My seat remains vacant, but not for long. I depart, snow crunching beneath my wheels, driving into the darkness, leaving behind the family that had chosen to erase me and the proof that would compel them to remember. 3 days later, I hang the final Christmas card on the thin ribbon stretched across my apartment window. 23 total, from coworkers, customers, my therapist, even a coffee shop worker who remembers my order at the corner establishment. The string bends under their weight but holds. Outside, Seattle vanishes behind a veil of winter precipitation. None from relatives. My fingers brush the worn leather case hidden beneath a pile of work documents. 3 days since my Christmas visit, and I still haven't returned it to the secure storage facility. Some evidence should remain accessible. The leather still carries the faint aroma of Dad's office, tobacco and cleaning solution. I unfasten the tarnished closure, my fingers tracing the initials M.E. Marshall, as if touching his hand once more. The official will sits on top, formal and pristine. Below it, his letter rests in its envelope, softened from my repeated examinations. I know every word by memory, but I need to see his penmanship again, the places where the pen pressed deeper, where his feelings showed through. You never requested anything, Izzy. His recognizable handwriting blurs as tears threaten. You simply remained.
You protected me.
This house belongs to you. You've earned it. I turn to the legal document with its harsh, impersonal language that contradicts everything Harlan has told the family. The Washington residence, 17 acres in Idaho, where Dad used to discuss building a retreat. His savings, $132,000. All bequeathed to me, his devoted daughter. A tear drops onto the paper. I wipe it quickly, fearing damage to his signature. Memories resurface, how gradually it occurred. Harlan arriving for weekend visits after Dad's diagnosis, staying longer each time. His casual takeover of Dad's office for important business calls. Mom yielding to his decisions with relieved sighs, happy to surrender the burden of responsibility. Harlan has always been skilled with finances, she would say, as if this justified everything. I remember returning from shopping to find Tessa wearing my old sweater, feet elevated on the footstool where Dad and I used to play chess. Joyce said I could use it, she had explained with a tight smile. You don't object, do you? By the time Dad's confusion worsened, Tessa had relocated to my childhood bedroom. Just temporarily, Mom assured me. It makes more sense. You're not here most of the time. The worst part wasn't the clothing or the bedroom. It was the photographs. One by one, images of Dad and me vanished from the walls. Our fishing expedition to Lake Wenatchee. Building the gazebo. His proud expression at my college graduation. Replaced by photos where Tessa stood central, arm linked with Mom's while Dad sat confused in the background. My phone vibrates against the coffee table. Sarah, my assistant. Tell me you're not working today, she says when I answer. Just organizing. I close the portfolio. Nothing important. Liar. Her voice softens. You found something in your dad's papers, didn't you? That's why you went up there for Christmas. In the 3 years Sarah has worked with me, she's never pressed for personal details. But she was there the day Harlan called to tell me Dad had been moved to a care facility for his own good, without consulting me. They took everything, I whispered. Or tried to. Those bastards. The venom in her voice surprises me. What are you going to do? Before I can answer, another call buzzes through. Warren Clement, Dad's attorney for 30 years. Call you back, I tell Sarah. Warren's voice sounds older than I remember. I've been trying to reach you. There's unusual activity on your father's accounts. What kind of activity? Harlan attempted to list the Idaho property with a realtor in Coeur d'Alene. They called me for verification, since my name is on the deed filing. My stomach drops. Can he do that? No, but he's trying. Warren pauses. There's something else. Your mother called, asking about amendments to the will. She seemed surprised when I mentioned your father's final intentions. A text notification flashes from Betty, our neighbor for 20 years. Strange trucks at the house yesterday. Moving things out. Should I be concerned? I forward it to Warren. We need to meet tomorrow, if possible. The next afternoon, Warren's office smells of leather and paper, unchanged since my childhood visits with Dad. Warren slides documents across his desk, his arthritis-swollen fingers tapping a paragraph highlighted in yellow. Your father amended his will 3 times in the last year of his life. Each time, he was more specific about his wishes. Warren's eyes find mine. Your father knew exactly what he was doing. Harlan sent an email to the family claiming I abandoned Dad. My voice catches, that I wasn't there when it mattered. Marshall anticipated this. Warren hands me another document, a calendar with my visits marked in Dad's shaky handwriting. Every weekend, sometimes midweek. Notes about what we ate, shows we watched, conversations we had. And this. A sealed envelope with my name. He asked me to give you this if there was ever any question about his intentions. Inside, a single photo. Dad and me on his 70th birthday, rebuilding the garden bench, his arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing. On the back, his handwriting, the only one who never left. Can they fight this? I ask. Warren shakes his head. Not successfully, but they'll try. He slides a final document toward me. This secures everything legally. Your signature here makes it official. As I sign, I think of the family gathered around the Christmas table without me. They think they've won, I say, capping the pen. Warren's smile is small but fierce. They have no idea what's coming. I leave with the portfolio tucked under my arm, heavier now with additional documentation, but somehow easier to carry. For the first time since Dad's diagnosis, I feel the slow burn of vindication replacing the hollow ache of betrayal. Christmas may have been their gathering, but truth will be mine. The next morning, my phone buzzes for the 3rd time. Harlan again. I let it ring through to voicemail, placing its screen down on the kitchen counter while I pour another cup of coffee. The red notification light blinks accusingly through my apartment's morning shadows. When the silence returns, I press play, holding the phone away from my ear as if his voice might contaminate me. Listen, this family has responsibilities. You clearly don't understand. His voice carries that familiar, patronizing tone, the one he perfected after Dad got sick. Mom's upset. Call her back, so we can discuss what Dad would have wanted. I delete the message, without saving it, adding it to the collection of Harlan's manipulations that have filled my voicemail over the past week. What Dad would have wanted. As if Harlan has any idea what that might be. The mail arrives with a soft thud through the slot. Christmas cards cascade onto the entryway floor, bright festive rectangles of forced cheer. Most are from colleagues and friends, but 3 bear handwriting I recognize. Aunt Margaret, Cousin Philip, Uncle James. I open them one by one, my stomach tightening as I read. We miss you at family gatherings. Your mother says you're struggling. Sometimes we have to set aside differences for family harmony. Your father valued family above all else. Remember his example. I placed them in a neat stack on the counter beside a stuffed manila envelope that arrived yesterday. More letters from relatives, each one dripping with concern and gentle reprimands, each one clearly informed by Harlan's version of events. My laptop screen glows with notifications. Tessa has posted another round of photos, her decorating the Christmas tree at my childhood home, her hand on Mom's shoulder, her sitting in Dad's favorite chair by the fireplace. The caption reads, "Carrying on the Ellery family traditions. Blessed to be here. Family first." The coffee turns bitter on my tongue. My phone rings again. Joyce calls again. This time I silence it mid-ring. Not today, I whisper to the empty apartment. I grab my keys and drive across town to the storage unit I've kept since moving to Seattle. The metal door groans as I roll it up, revealing stacked boxes marked with Dad's neat handwriting. I navigate past college furniture and old winter clothes to the back corner, where his workbench tools rest, carefully wrapped in old blankets. The hammer feels substantial in my hand, its wooden handle worn smooth from years of use. I unwrap each tool slowly, the level with its slightly bubbled glass, the hand plane with Dad's initials scratched into the metal, the tape measure with faded numbers. A memory surfaces, bright and immediate. I'm 14, holding boards steady while Dad measures. The backyard fence had collapsed during winter storms, and rebuilding it became our weekend project. The neighbors offered to help, but Dad refused. This is ours, he'd said, showing me how to level each post. Harlan had watched from the kitchen window, rolling his eyes at our dusty clothes and sunburned shoulders. You know, we could hire someone, he'd said when we finally came inside. Normal families don't build their own fences. Dad had looked at him, something sad flickering across his face. Some things are worth doing yourself, Harlan. Later, as we mixed concrete for the last post, Dad had placed his hammer in my small hands, closing my fingers around the handle. It's not about who makes the most noise, he'd said, voice low and serious. It's about who builds things that last. Now, years later, I press my forehead against the smooth wood of the hammer handle, breathing in the faint scent of sawdust that somehow still clings to it. I remember, Dad. I whisper. I remember everything. I pack the tools carefully into a box and load them into my car. The weight of them feels like armor somehow, protection against the storm of texts and calls trying to pull me back into their narrative. 3 days later, I spot Tessa across the produce section at Morgan's Market. I consider abandoning my cart, avoiding the confrontation, but something stops me. Dad's voice, perhaps. Some things are worth doing yourself. She notices me by the apples, her face arranging itself into a mask of concern so practiced it's almost convincing. Isolde. We've all been so worried. She moves toward me, arms outstretched as if for a hug. I remain still, watching her arms slowly lower when she realizes I won't step forward to meet them. I'm perfectly fine, I say, selecting an apple and placing it carefully in my basket. I'm sure you've made yourself quite comfortable in my absence. Her eyes narrow slightly, the mask slipping. You left, Isolde. We stayed. That matters. So, does the truth, Tessa. I meet her gaze directly, and it always finds its way home. She flinches just slightly, but enough to confirm what I already know. They're afraid of what I found, of what I know. That evening, Warren calls with updates. The paperwork is filed. Legally, they can't touch the property or accounts without triggering serious consequences. Sarah stops by with dinner and helps me organize the final pieces of evidence, photographs and bank statements spread across my dining table. Your brother is a real piece of work, she says, slipping another document into a folder. These withdrawals all coincided with your father's decline. Betty, my parents' neighbor for 20 years, texted me photos of strangers coming and going from the house, moving furniture I recognize. Douglas, Dad's oldest friend, leaves a voicemail recounting how often Dad spoke of me with pride. He told me once, Douglas says, voice crackling over the line, that you were the only one who saw him, not what he could give. Remember that, Isolde. The contrast strikes me, the circle of support versus the blood relatives who have chosen to erase me. Next Tuesday, I drive to the cemetery. The ground is hard with frost, crunching beneath my boots as I make my way to Dad's grave. I place a small arrangement of holly and pine cones, things we used to gather together from the woods behind our house. They won't erase you from my story, Dad. I promise, my breath forming clouds in the cold air. Or me from yours. Standing there with the winter sun breaking through bare branches, I feel a strange clarity settling over me. The hammer, the fence, the quiet lessons he imparted while Harlan was busy elsewhere, these were the real inheritance. Not the house or land or money they're so desperate to claim. Back at the hotel, I prepare with methodical care. Each document copied, the most damning evidence placed in chronological order. I select the photograph that will hurt the most. Dad and me on the porch swing, his arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing at some forgotten joke. The one Harlan took and later pretended didn't exist. I choose my clothes with equal care, a simple black dress, Dad's watch on my wrist, no jewelry beyond small pearl earrings he gave me for college graduation. Nothing flashy or dramatic. Nothing that suggests I'm coming for a fight. The small silver box sits on the hotel desk, waiting. Inside it, everything they fear. The truth, laid bare in Dad's own handwriting. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah. You don't have to do this alone. But I do. This moment belongs to me and the promises I made at a graveside this morning. As I drive toward the house, I rehearse what I won't say, what accusations I'll swallow, what anger I'll contain. This isn't about confrontation. It's about truth. I park in the circular driveway, taking a deep breath before stepping out into the cold. Through the dining room window, I can see them gathered, glasses raised in some toast I'm not part of. The front door opens silently under my hand. The family falls quiet as I appear in the doorway, the silver box tucked under my arm. Mom's face pales. Isolde. We weren't expecting. I know, I say, my voice steady and clear in the sudden silence. But some things can't stay buried forever. I place the box on the table, all eyes following my movement. No one speaks. No one moves. And in that frozen moment, I finally understand what Dad meant about building things that last. I drive through the snow-hushed streets away from my childhood home, the taillights of my car painting the white landscape red. Lights twinkle from neighboring houses, blurring through tears I refuse to shed. Not this time. My phone buzzes on the passenger seat again and again. The screen lights up with notifications. Joyce, Harlan, Tessa, even Aunt Margaret. The silver box I left behind has done its work. I picture them scrambling now, the perfect dinner descending into chaos as they realize what I know. Let them burn, I whisper to the empty car. At the hotel, I place my phone face down on the nightstand, without checking a single message. The evidence will speak for itself. The bank statements showing my financial support during his illness, the calendar of my visits when they claimed I was absent. Truth needs no defense attorney. For the first time in months, I sleep without waking. Dreamless and deep. Morning brings 37 missed calls and 22 text messages. I scroll through them while sipping coffee by the window, watching the snow blanket the parking lot below. Joyce, we were just caught off guard. Please call us. Harlan, let's meet. I think we misunderstood each other. Tessa, this isn't what you think. Followed by a sad face emoji that makes me laugh out loud. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in months suddenly remember my existence. Uncle Robert wants to clear things up. Aunt Margaret hopes we can talk this through like adults. I don't block any of them. I simply don't respond. 3 days pass. I return to Seattle, to my apartment with its clean lines and absence of family photos. Sarah brings me coffee as I settle back into my office. How is the nuclear meeting? She asks, leaning against my desk. Radioactive, I answer, scrolling through work emails. You okay? I look up, consider the question. Better than I've been in years. Sarah nods, understanding without needing details. She's seen the toll this family's struggle has taken. Your brother called the office 4 times yesterday. I told him you were unavailable indefinitely. Her smile holds no apology. The intercom buzzes. An hour later, Sarah's voice comes through, crisp and professional. Miss Ellery, your brother is here without an appointment. My stomach tightens, but my voice remains steady. Tell him I'm in a meeting. 5 minutes later, Sarah appears in my doorway. He won't leave. Says it's about your father's will. I look at the family photo I keep hidden in my desk drawer, Marshall and me on the porch swing, before the dementia, before the betrayal. I slip it back inside, and stand. I'll handle it. Harlan paces the reception area, his camel hair coat dusted with melting snowflakes. He looks smaller somehow, the swagger replaced with something approaching desperation. 15 minutes, Harlan, I say, not inviting him into my office. He runs a hand through his salt and pepper hair. We need to talk about Dad's will. Sarah walks past, coffee mug in hand, without missing a beat. She says, Miss Ellery isn't available to you. Harlan's face flushes. Tell her it's about Dad's will. Sarah looks at him, then at me, her expression calm but protective. She's quite aware of her father's will, Mr. Ellery. The shift happens visibly. Harlan's shoulders sag an inch. The power has turned like electricity, suddenly flowing in the opposite direction. He came expecting to intimidate, to manipulate. Instead, he faces two women who see through him completely. What do you want? I ask. To explain. His voice lacks its usual authority. There were arrangements. Arrangements you made while he wasn't lucid. The words taste metallic like blood. Arrangements that conveniently erased me. That's not. I have work to do. I turn toward my office. You've had 2 years to explain. He leaves without another word, empty-handed and diminished. My phone buzzes with a voicemail from Joyce. Her voice breaks as she talks about family misunderstandings and healing old wounds. I delete it halfway through. Harlan's text messages evolve over days from demanding to pleading. We need to talk about this rationally becomes please call me back becomes I'm sorry. Betty from next door sends a photo. Tessa loading suitcases into her car, moving her things out of my bedroom. The room that was mine long before she claimed it. Family friends start calling me directly, not through Harlan, as they've done for months. Their voices hold questions they don't quite ask. The truth ripples outward, reshaping perceptions, correcting the narrative Harlan so carefully constructed. I draft an email at Sarah's desk, her reassuring presence beside me. The message is simple, copies of the will attached, a brief explanation of Marshall's intentions. No accusations or drama. I send it to the extended family, with one click. Are you sure? Sarah asks. I nod. Truth doesn't need embellishment. The next day, I make a public donation to the dementia care facility where Marshall spent his final weeks. The amount matches exactly what he left me in savings, $132,000. I list it in his name, with a note about dignity and memory care. My phone rings less frequently now. The messages turn respectful, even contrite. Joyce sends a photo, the family portrait with me and Marshall back on the mantel, restored to its place after months of absence. I don't respond. Some silences speak volumes. A week later, I arrive 15 minutes early to Cliffside, a restaurant perched on the edge of Lake Washington, where my family has requested this neutral meeting. The hostess leads me to a private room in the back, where floor-to-ceiling windows frame snow-dusted evergreens and slate-gray water. The table is already set for 4.
Perfect.
Warren won't be expected. I take the seat facing the door and place my leather portfolio on the table. Inside rest the pieces of a puzzle my family never expected me to solve. My fingertips trace the worn edges of my father's voice recorder, a simple device that will shatter their carefully constructed narrative. The door swings open. Mother enters first, her face a careful mask of maternal concern. Harlan follows, his shoulders squared in that boardroom posture he's perfected over the years. Tessa trails behind them, already looking for the quickest exit. Isolde, Mother attempts a tremulous smile. Thank you for coming. I gesture toward the empty chairs without rising. Please sit. They arrange themselves opposite me, a unified front. The waitress appears with water, but I wave away menus. Just coffee for now. We should order, Harlan says, the slight twitch in his jaw betraying his irritation. This might take a while. It won't, I reply. Mother reaches across the table, her manicured fingers stopping just short of mine. Darling, we've had time to think about everything. About what your father really wanted for all of us. Have you? My voice remains level. Harlan leans forward, his expression shifting to what he probably believes is compassionate understanding. Look, Isolde. Estate matters are complicated. Dad had good intentions, but he wasn't thinking clearly toward the end. You know he wasn't. Tessa interjects, her voice honey-sweet. Marshall made promises to me, too. To all of us. Mother dabs at the corner of her eye with a monogrammed handkerchief. You abandoned us when we needed you most, Isolde. Your father was confused. Harlan steeples his fingers. We're prepared to contest the will. Do you really want to drag the family through that kind of public spectacle? Your emotional state after Dad died was perfectly sound, I interrupt, placing the small voice recorder on the table. As was his. I hit play. My father's voice resonates through the room, clear and unwavering. Warren, I need to be crystal clear about my intentions. She is getting older and will inherit everything, the house, the Idaho property, and all my savings. Harlan has been attempting to alter the documentation, but I'm stating this now with complete mental clarity. This is my will. A brief pause, followed by my father's laughter, so achingly familiar it tightens my chest. Harlan believes I'm oblivious to his schemes, taking credit for the money she provides, intercepting her messages to me. But I see everything. She's the only one who remained when it truly counted, Warren. The only one. The recording continues, but their expressions reveal they've heard enough. Mother's carefully crafted mask crumbles, genuine tears replacing the theatrical ones. Harlan's face loses all color. The door opens behind them as Warren enters, carrying a substantial folder. Their heads turn in perfect synchronization. Perfect timing, I announce. Warren places the folder before me and settles into the vacant chair beside me. I extract the first document, bank statements revealing regular transfers from my account to my father's care facility, each followed by Harlan's emails to relatives claiming responsibility. Next, we have my calendar. I continue, producing a color-coded schedule. Every highlighted day represents a visit to Dad during his final year, 142 visits, to be precise. How many did you make, Harlan? His mouth opens, then closes wordlessly. I produce a letter bearing official letterhead. This is from Dr. Kessler, confirming Dad's mental competency when he revised his will. Another document joins the mounting pile. And these are photographs of me at Dad's bedside while the rest of you were. Where exactly? Tessa, wasn't this around the time you were posting beach photos from San Diego? Tessa pushes back her chair and rises. I don't have to endure this. Actually, you do, Warren interjects quietly. Since you've been residing in a house you have no legal right to occupy. She exits without another word. Mother collapses into authentic sobs now, her shoulders trembling. Harlan's desperation fills his eyes as he leans forward. We can divide it equitably, 50-50. That's reasonable, isn't it? I gather the documents back into my portfolio. This isn't about money, Harlan. It never was.
Then what do you want? He demands.
Nothing you can provide now. I stand abruptly, towering over them. The power shift is tangible, like gravity reversing. Dad knew who stayed when it mattered. I say, my voice surprisingly steady. He knew who was there to hold his hand, to help him remember his stories when he began forgetting them himself. Mother reaches for my hand. Please. I withdraw gently, but firmly from her grasp. I'm not erasing you. That was your choice regarding me. The portfolio tucked under my arm feels lighter than when I arrived. I walk toward the door, my steps unhurried. No one follows. No one calls my name. Outside, snow has begun falling again, delicate flakes catching in my hair. I take a deep breath of crisp winter air, feeling it cut through the heaviness in my chest. In the car, I place my hand on the small velvet box on the passenger seat. Inside rest the final revelations I chose not to share today. Papers establishing a family trust in Mother's name, ensuring she'll never lack for care. Some truths aren't weapons. Some are simply seeds waiting for the right season to grow. I start the engine and drive away from the restaurant, from the family that chose to write me out of their narrative. This time, I'm the one holding the pen. 6 months later, I place Dad's faded holly mug at the empty chair, my fingers lingering on its chipped handle. 6 months have passed since I walked out of that pristine Christmas nightmare, and the world hasn't collapsed. If anything, it's expanded. Morning light streams across my Seattle apartment, catching the brass edge of Dad's photograph. Not the formal portrait Mom insisted we use at the funeral, but the candid one Betty sent me. Dad in his workshop, hammer raised mid-swing, laughing at something I'd said off-camera. My phone buzzes with a text from Joyce. Can we meet just once? Please? I set it aside without responding. Not a rejection, just a postponement. Some conversations require perfect timing. The drive to what is now legally my childhood home takes exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. I know because I've made the trip 12 times since winter, each visit easier than the last. The house no longer looms like an accusation. Today it waits like a canvas. The memory oasis, I say aloud, testing the name on my tongue. Warren's paperwork for the respite center sits completed on the passenger seat. Dad's savings, $132,000, diverted to dementia research rather than Harlan's boat fund. I walk through rooms that once trapped decades of perfect performances, my heels striking confident rhythms against hardwood that belongs to me. In the kitchen, I run my hand along countertops where Joyce orchestrated holiday meals with military precision. My phone chimes with a message from Betty. Found something you should see. The attachment opens to reveal a photograph I thought lost forever. Dad and me at 14, covered in sawdust, grinning beside the newly completed fence. What catches my breath isn't the image itself, but where Betty found it. Not in the family album, but thumbtacked above Dad's workbench in the tool shed. The one place no one bothered to sanitize after he died. The one place he kept what truly mattered. Evening finds me in my new garden, surrounded by my chosen family. Sarah refills wine glasses while Warren discusses the nature sanctuary plans for the Idaho acreage. Betty and Douglas raise their glasses as I place Dad's hammer in the center of the table. To building things that last, Douglas says. Across town, a young woman named Claire meets me for coffee weekly. Her eyes slowly losing the haunted look they held when she first described her family's campaign of erasure. Your worth isn't measured by their recognition, I tell her, echoing Dad's wisdom. 1 year later, Christmas lights twinkle against fresh snow as I set the table with Dad's collection of mismatched ornaments. No perfect centerpiece, no color-coordinated place settings, just chairs filled with people who choose to be here. Joyce pauses in the doorway, uncertainty etched in new lines around her eyes. Your place is there, I say, pointing to the chair I've saved for her. Not forgiveness, exactly, but possibility. As I take my seat at the head of the table, I realize the true inheritance wasn't property or money. It was the proof that I was always enough, even when they tried to write me out of their story. I raise my glass to Dad's empty chair, his holly mug catching the light. Some things can never be erased.